Hi everybody and welcome back. My name's Laura Scott and I'm the Managing Director and Partner here at ADAPTOVATE Australia. Today I'm joined by one of our experts in the field, Connor Hershkowitz, who is a project lead here in the Sydney office. And we're going to talk about, now we're in a new year, we're going to set everybody up for 2026. We're going to talk about some of the business problems that we're hearing. And we're going to explore some of the tools that companies are using to set themselves up for success. So Connor, welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
It's great to have you here. Yeah. You're one of our OKR specialists.
Yes,
and
I am.
I'm using the acronym right there because I'd like to kick off with exploring OKRs.
Yep.
Can you take us through what they are?
Yeah, absolutely. So OKRs, which stands for Objectives and Key Results, are a common goal-setting tool that we use with organizations to help them actually deliver on the strategy that they come up with. The reason why OKRs are very valuable is, we have these objectives, which are kind of the ambition of what they want to be achieving, where they want to be going as an organization or as a team over the coming 3 months, 6 months, more commonly over the next year. And that ambition is then supported by these key results, which are the actual metrics and measurements that they can use to say, are we achieving on our success? So that they can look and say, we know where we want to go, but now how are we going to actually measure the progress to make sure we're achieving what we want?
Great.
So,
Connor, what problem are OKRs trying to solve for organizations?
yeah. OKRs really help the teams and organizations to prioritize on what matters most. When we're actually writing the OKRs with the teams, if they have 3 objectives, we actually rank them Objective 1, Objective 2, Objective 3. And similarly, the key results are also in a rank priority order underneath them. So if Objective 1 had 5 key results, we would be saying the first objective there is the most important objective right now of delivering on our ambition.
Okay.
Where that's helpful is a lot of organizations, they might be delivering a lot of work. I was working with a client recently, and they were saying that if they gave the teams like 100 pieces of work to do, they would deliver 95 of them, but the 5 that they would miss would be the 5 top priorities because they weren't clear on what it was that was most important. They just had a list of everything they needed to do, and to the average team member, it wasn't always clear what the most important goals were for the organization.
So you raise a really great point. So the 2 things I heard there were prioritization.
Yep.
It's a tool to allow organizations, businesses of any size to ruthlessly prioritize.
Yeah.
The other thing I heard is alignment. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about alignment and autonomy. Now, as a company, we pride ourselves on helping companies with alignment and autonomy. How do you see this supporting the execution of OKRs?
Yeah, so I'll start with the alignment piece because it does enable both alignment and autonomy. When we're speaking about the alignment, the way that we actually write the OKRs is first we are with, like the executives or whoever's leading the team coming up with what their priorities are and understanding what's most important to them right now. But we don't just take their objectives and key results and say, this is everything we need to achieve, and then take it to the team. Instead, what we do is we take that, then we meet with the teams, and we actually draft up more key results to understand what is it that they're working on that's most important to them right now. Because, leaders often aren't across all the things that are going on in their organization, so they might forget about things, and only when they're actually collaborating with their team do they get reminded about these other in-flight pieces that are really important and need to continue on.
Yeah, great. So alignment is the cross between top down and bottom up.
Yeah.
So ensuring that there is co-design or there is direction from leaders and there is co-design from teams coming up.
Absolutely.
And then what about autonomy?
Yeah, so the key results really do help with the autonomy because when we write them, we're writing what metric we want to be delivering and achieving, but we're not saying how you need to achieve it. So if we just take this podcast for an example, if you need to grow your audience by 50%, that's the key result. But then once we hand it over to you, it's up to you to come up with the plan of how you will be achieving that 50%. So we're empowering the teams to actually come up with a plan of how they want to deliver on this strategy.
Which leads, it's a great point because it leads me to culture. I think what we have seen is OKRs foster a culture of alignment and autonomy. And by giving teams, firstly, the opportunity to co-design a key result of how they are going to contribute to the success of an objective, really helps from a culture perspective of ownership, of transparency, of alignment, of bringing teams closer together, giving them a really great conversation and an opportunity to communicate in a different way where they possibly haven't done before. Are there any other culture aspects that you've seen from shifts where you have rolled OKRs out and it's fundamentally changed the culture?
Yeah, so one of the clients that I've worked with recently, a big thing that happened was the first time we rolled out OKRs and we brought the team, like, oh, we want to hear from you as to what's important. People kind of just sat back. They didn't trust that their voice actually mattered. They thought, oh, I'm here to be doing what I'm told to do. But a few brave people did put up their hand and say, I'm working on this. I think it's the biggest priority right now for my team. And, their leaders actually gathered around and agreed, like, yeah, that should be a key result for this quarter. Interestingly enough, the second quarter we did the key results, a few more people start putting up their hands. And this third quarter that we did it with them, almost everyone was contributing, saying, can we be adding these key results? Can we bring it up? And actually became a situation where so many people were excited about wanting to contribute to what the direction of the organization was, that we also now have to add more layers in about, well, how do we prioritize so it's not just a laundry list of everything's becoming a key result. But it's really great to see the team energized and feeling like they're contributing to the strategy at all levels.
Really important. And from an ownership perspective and a culture perspective, I think the ruthless prioritization so that you don't just get a laundry list, because it shouldn't just be your daily tasks. And if it is a laundry list, then you're not doing them correctly. So let's talk about doing them correctly. What does a good OKR look like?
Yeah, so if we're thinking about the objective first, which is more, again, over the quarter, half year, or annual, that objective, it should be an ambitious statement that really inspires the team of where we want to be. It should be realistic, but feel like a stretch, enough to inspire people, but not enough to make them be like, oh gosh, there's no way we could be achieving that this quarter. When we then take that and break it down to the key results, we want to be coming up with the metrics that matter the most. There's always going to be like 10 different ways you can measure something, but what are the 3, 4, 5 metrics that we can say, if we achieve these results, we would be confident to say, yes, this objective has been achieved for this quarter. And that kind of ties into the way we need to be writing the key results, which is a challenge for people, because they do need to follow that SMART framework, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound, which is very easy to say, but a lot harder in practice. Oftentimes you'll have people, for example, say, oh, our key result is to deliver the plan, which is great, you should, but what are we actually getting out of that plan? What's the metric we need to see of our customers, for example, to increase, and focusing in on the outcome that we need to be achieving with the key result, and the metrics that will be moving the needle is really important. Similarly, someone might say, our goal is to write a report. Sounds great. Initially, people might sign that off, but what do we mean by write? Like, if I just write it and leave it on my desk, I've achieved the key result. Versus if I need to actually prepare a document and have you, Laura, as my managing director, endorse it, that's a whole nother level of scrutiny that I need to go under.
Okay, so we need to be really specific with what we are doing when we are writing key results. Can you talk about measurement of key results? So but as a OKR fundamental, there is a 70% success rate, and if you are getting 70%, then you are successful. How are you pushing teams at the moment to set ambitious OKRs?
Yeah, that is one of the cultural shifts, which even connects with what we were speaking about earlier, that we really need to embed into the teams. If we're getting 100% on every key result, then we're missing the point of them being ambitious and this stretch goal. So the reason why we target as 70% is that's once we get to 70%, we've achieved what we thought we could do. But when you look at 70%, you still want to go a bit further. You want to push yourself to get to that 100. It's more natural and just people like to achieve. That in itself, though, obviously requires some trust within people that they know that if I achieve 70%, it will be viewed as I've been successful and won't be held against me, which does take some time. And one of the ways that we address that is the first time we're writing key results, I do usually speak with the leaders and encourage them to be a little less ambitious that first quarter. We want people to be achieving that 70% and that 75% the first quarter so that they start to see the power of them. And then slowly but surely, when they build that culture of trust and accountability, then we make them a bit more stretch each quarter. And they really get into it. People want to push each other more, and they start challenging each other's key results. Say, I think you can go a little further this quarter. So.
Yeah. So some leaders say that OKRs kill agility in a company because they're making teams lock in for the quarter. Do you think this is right?
I don't. And I also think that is another pitfall of people viewing OKRs as this like one-stop shop to solve their problems. If again, they're a goal-setting tool, but we have to be using them with our ways of working. So if we just write the goals, we have to be putting in the processes to actually measure them and hold it to account. So what we commonly do use OKRs with is things like a quarterly delivery cycle where we're setting the objectives and key results every quarter, because again, that fits nicely with how many organizations are running already. And then when we're writing the key results, we actually want to be checking in on the progress every mid-quarter, every month, every mid-quarter, depending on the cadences that they're already using, to say, how are we tracking towards our delivery? And when you're doing that, you actually are more agile, because if I'm achieving all of my key results, then the question can be like, okay, well, what am I working on next? Should I just continue doing my business as usual work? Or are there other key results where I could lean in and help them achieve their key results? Similarly, you may have a case where all of the key results, if you're putting like a laundry list out there, are only getting to like 50%. And then it might actually be like, you know what, I think we're trying to do too much right now. Why don't we try and focus on a smaller number of key results and move the teams to be focused on what matters most now, and then try and deliver that? Because I think we can all agree we'd rather have 3 things delivered 100% than 10 things delivered 50%.
So what I'm hearing is it actually makes a team more agile.
Yeah, I think with the right tools.
Yeah, it's moving them to the right place at the right time with the right people there.
Yeah, and it's giving visibility into, are we actually achieving what we want? So
Yep, great. So can you paint a picture of a team that is using OKRs really well that you're working with at the moment?
Yeah, for teams that are using them really well, I think they strike the right balance of that leadership giving them direction while the teams are also feeling the power to come up with their own key results. And then once the teams are contributing to like that group level strategy or the business unit level strategy, they're then taking their key results and going back to their teams who might not be in these strategy sessions, and even cascading those OKRs down, saying like, look, here's the key result we have as a team. Laura, what is your smaller team's contribution going to be to that, and how are we going to track that? And it just helps them to flow through that group level strategy, which more junior team members might be like, yeah, it's great, but how's my day-to-day actually connect to that? And when you're cascading it down like these teams are doing, every team member sees how their day-to-day work or week-to-week work is connecting in with that group strategy. As teams get more mature as well, I think get an understanding of like that ambitiousness that comes with the key results of trying to strive for more, and also the confidence to say, I'm not going to be doing this piece of work right now because there's other key results that should be delivered. So it's keeping the attention where it matters.
Yeah, great. So what's one of the smallest changes that a team could do tomorrow that would dramatically change the way to improve their OKR discipline? If they're currently just starting off, let's say, what's one tip that you would give them?
Ruthlessly prioritize your key results is definitely the number one thing that we can do. You know, it's normal that people want to put all of their work down as happening as key results, and it becomes this laundry list, like I mentioned, like 50 things that we need to achieve. It shouldn't just be a checkbox exercise of everything we want. It really needs to be grounded in what is most important right now. Like, and the way we can do that is we have some questions that we always ask when we're working with people. For example, like, what happens if it doesn't happen until next quarter? If we don't have this system in place right now, if we're trying to, I don't know, roll out a new software, does anything change? Like, is the business operating now? Why do we need this? And those challenging questions, while they are initially a bit hard, which is why we help and facilitate them, once you start to do it, the teams actually start to want to prioritize because they want to be focusing their effort on what matters most. And they also don't want to be trying to do a million things and then stretching their own capacity. So, you know, after we start doing that, the other teams who are closer to the work will start chatting like, hey, Laura, do you really think you need to be doing that? Or that key result actually has a dependency on me, and I'm not going to have time to help you this quarter, so why don't you push it to next quarter?
Great. So you've implemented OKRs with quite a few teams in different industries as well. What are some of the emotional barriers that you're seeing really come out of team culture or even any type of team environment when OKRs are implemented?
Yeah, so when we do the OKRs, the end result is that the teams do feel, you know, more empowered, more aligned, more accountable. But it is a journey to get there. I think oftentimes there are team members who are more hesitant to put their name next to a key result and take that accountability, because it's a big thing to say, if this isn't achieved,
your head's on the line.
Exactly,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
on the line. So sometimes there's a bit of resistance there, which is why it's really important to view it as, while you might be the accountable person, we're not saying you're the person responsible for the entire delivery of it. And it's also trying to break it down. While you're accountable, we're putting it as a key result. So if you are struggling and you can't deliver it, we are saying this is a priority. So if we need to be looking at how we allocate our resources, we should be doing that to deliver our key results. Because again, these aren't just a set and forget. They're meant to be combined with your ways of working to improve.
And you've brought up a great point in ways of working. So I'm working with another client at the moment who are implementing OKRs, brand new to them. They're finding that some of the team who previously weren't really open to sharing or sitting around a table and talking about the work they didn't think it was necessary, or they didn't think it was maybe not appropriate, but more the team didn't care. Now they're feeling vulnerable. So they're feeling very vulnerable coming to the seat every Monday morning and having a check-in, every quarter saying how they've achieved. But what they've done from a culture perspective is they've opened this up from an executive team perspective, that it is okay to ask for help. And to your point of, we have this objective as one of our company objectives. We all believe that it is important. How can we help you?
Completely agree. And even just last week, I was with a client and their executive called out that the best part for him of the check-in was the number of orange boxes that he saw. Because he even called out, if everything was green, he wouldn't trust it. So he loved that after a few quarters, the team was feeling confident enough to call out, no, this is not on track and I need help. So completely agree with that.
Yeah. Connor, so what's the key message for our listeners today on OKRs?
OKRs are a goal-setting tool that help you to prioritize what matters most right now to help give your teams alignment on the strategy and the direction that you need to go and how you need to be achieving that. By creating that alignment, you then are also empowering them with the autonomy to deliver on the key results. With this, though, we need to remember that OKRs themselves should be fitting in with your ways of working. You know, they're just one of the many tools and many ways that we can address it. but they're best when combined with improving your cadences and your governance as well.
Absolutely, and I think that's critical. We need to make sure teams are communicating, that they're incorporating these into their ways of working, so they're not just a sheet of paper that's sitting on the desk beautifully, that they are actually a living, breathing artifact that
100%.
is rolling through their business. So thank you, Connor. Thanks very much for joining me. Thanks for the fruitful conversation. I hope everybody has learnt something today about OKRs, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. Thanks very much for joining us.